Live streaming.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, December 6th. Moving on to the end of this year, and it's it's unbelievable the weather. It's like 45 degrees on December 6th. There's no snow on the ground. So I'm happy. Some of you might be wanting that white Christmas. I'm good. I'm good. Better than good. So today we're going to stay on that lesson about implied and explicit ideas because it's really known as reading between the lines, right? What's not said, and how do you ascertain, how do you get what's not said? By looking at what is said and supporting details, supporting evidence, and then you draw that conclusion as to what is implied. It's there that you have to look for it. You have to know how to look for it. So we're going to start our lesson today by reading, well, in the lesson, we're going to read a chapter from a book and then talk about what's implied and explicit. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we're going to get on our way. Actually, that's not what I wanted to look at first. There we go. So we are looking at explicit and implicit questions, right? Let's go on to the next one. Think about it. Have you ever wondered why the sky is blue? Why people yawn? Why there are rainbows? That's my phone. I'm not going to get it right now. Um, and also why the ocean, why the ocean is salty. Have you ever wondered about those things? hmm Think about it. Have you ever watched a movie and wondered, why did that character do that? What will happen next? Why did that happen? And why did the character say that? So let's look at this. See if I can blow it up a little bit for you. Can we make it bigger? There you go. Congratulations, saving the animals of the rainforest. Dear participant, we recently conducted some interviews around your city, and your name repeatedly came up. So we are writing this letter to inform you that you have been chosen to appear in our new reality show called Save the Rainforest. Next, a limo will be picking you up and one family member at your house. You will be traveling to the wonderful Amazon rainforest. Um, Once again, congratulations, saving the rainforest producer. So you got this letter in the mail, right? And you're going to have some questions. huh, what? Did I did I apply for this? So maybe you did. Let's assume that you did. So some questions would be, okay, what time will I leave? Who are the participants? What will I have to do? Where will I stay? What should I pack? Here are some What are some other questions you might have about this new and exciting adventure? My first question would be, are there going to be snakes? But what might be some other questions you would have? Okay. So, good readers do this. Just like asking questions about what you see in the world, good readers are also curious and will ask questions. Good readers will ask questions before, during, and after reading. Good readers will also ask explicit questions about what has been stated and implicit questions, what they believe is supported by the text, to better understand what they are reading. Let's look into explicit and implicit questioning. So, explicit questions can be have answers that can be found within the text. For example, What is the name of the reality show? They already told you, right? It's called Saving the Animals of the Rainforest. Um, and implicit questions, going to the right here, have answers that are formed by clues from the text, by one's own experiences, one's background. So you're going to use clues that you're reading, your own knowledge and experience to answer that question. For example, where is the Amazon rainforest? We're going to be traveling to the wonderful Amazon rainforest. So, um, I've learned about it, I've read about it, and I know that it's located in South America. It's where the Amazon is. And then if I didn't know, I know there are resources to tell me, right? Okay. Now, listen as I read out loud to you. I'm going to stop once in a while to answer some questions or ask questions and then pay attention to whether they're explicit or implicit types of questions. Ready? So, um, I'm going to read an excerpt here from a book called Awakening, and then you can read it to do that lesson yourself. So, this is a chapter from this book called Awakening. How did it all begin? And I wish I could make that bigger for you, but I can't. Um, but do your best with it. Excuse me. How did it all begin? Well, I suppose it would be the day that I rescued a newborn baby from a poisonous snake, heard the news of my mother's death, and encountered my first ghost. Thinking about it, I could even pinpoint the time. A few minutes before 6 on Friday morning, and my quiet, orderly life went into a meltdown. So, how did it all begin? It sounds like my question would be she's talking about a whole lot of crazy, right? She gave these three details of things that don't, she saved a newborn baby from a poisonous snake, heard the news of her mother's death, and saw a ghost. That sounds like the beginning of some crazy, right? So that's implied to me. So 7 minutes to 6, I'd run hard, panting, dripping with sweat. I found my key and pushed open the back door. The moment I did so, my young charges started screeching. So, who are young charges? What are young charges? Um, she opened the door and pushed it open. Her young charges, what would you think? Young what? If you're in charge of someone, right, they are called your charges. So, her young kids, maybe. So, rubbing a towel across the back of my neck, I crossed the kitchen, lifted the lid of the incubator, and looked down. Oh, maybe not a baby, not maybe not human babies. Three of them, hardly more than a handful apiece, hungry, grumpy balls of feathery fluff. Barn owl chicks, 2 weeks old and orphaned just days after birth when their mother hit a large truck. They were birds, her charges. A local bird watcher had seen the dead owl and knew where to find the nest. He'd brought the chicks to the wildlife hospital where I am the resident veterinary surgeon. So what does this person do? They are a vet who also performs surgery, all right? They'd been close to death, cold and starving. They'd been starving ever since. I too took a tray from the fridge, found a pair of tweezers, and dangled a tiny dead mouse into the incubator. Why do you do that? I guess this is what baby owls eat rats. Didn't last long. The chicks were thriving, but worryingly getting too used to me. So hand rearing wild birds is tricky. Without some kind of human intervention, orphan chicks will die. At the same time, they shouldn't become too dependent on people. Why should they not become too dependent on people when they go back out into the wild? Will they not know how to hunt for themselves? In a couple more weeks, I was hoping to introduce them to avian foster parents who would teach them the skills they needed to hunt and feed themselves. So who best or what best? Avian foster parents. Have you ever heard the word aviator? Talks about flying. So avian foster parents, animals to fly other birds to teach them the skills they needed. Until then, I had to be careful. It was probably time to move them to an enclosed nesting box and start a barn owl shaped glove puppet at meal times. Why would you give them a puppet that's shaped like a barn owl? They're barn owls. Hmm. Is that for them to think they're being fed by their mother and not a human? Hmm. 3 minutes to 6. I was heading upstairs for a shower when the phone rang, and I braced myself to be called in to deal with yet another road deer run over on the A35. Miss Benning? Is this Miss Benning, the vet? A young woman's voice, a very distressed young woman's voice. Yes, speaking. I answered, wondering if I was going to get my shower after all. It's Lindsay Houston here. I live just up the road from you. Number 2. There's a snake in my baby's cot. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the hell to do. Her voice was rising with every word. She seemed verging on hysteria. What is hysteria? Why would she be hysterical? Are you sure? Silly question. I know, but to be fair, a snake in a cot is not something you see every day. Of course I'm sure. I'm looking at it right now. What the hell do I do? She was too loud. How else would she be, right? A snake in her baby's cot. Stay quiet and don't make any sudden movements, I said. I, on the other hand, was moving fast out of the house, grabbing my keys as I went, bleeping open the boot, reaching inside. Do you think it's bitten her? I asked, surprising myself. I'd remembered that the little baby was a girl. I'd seen pink balloons outside the house a few weeks ago. I don't know. She looks like she's asleep. Oh God, what if she's not sleeping? Is her color normal? Can you see her breathing? I grabbed a couple of things from the back of the car and set off up the hill. I could see the Houston's house, a sweet whitewashed cottage at the top of the lane. The family was new to the village, had only lived there a couple weeks, but I thought I could picture the mother, about my age, tallish, with shoulder length, fair hair. She and I had never spoken before. I'm nearly there. One thing to remember is to not frighten the snake. Don't do anything to alarm it, I said. I pushed open the gate and I ran up the path to the front door. It was locked. I ran around the back. The phone I was carrying was too far from its base station to begin to beep at me. Phone not working. That was her house phone. I switched it off and pushed at the back door. I was inside, a brightly colored, modern kitchen. For a house with a newborn baby, it seemed remarkably tidy and clean. How would you think a house would look with a newborn baby? They'd be a little frazzled, right? Nobody sleeping stuff, nobody caring too much about cleaning. I put the phone down on the table and I walked along the hall in the direction of the voice I could hear gabbing upstairs. As I approached the stairs, I noticed damp patches and traces of mud on the otherwise spotless tiled floor. A familiar sound caught my attention. Glancing to the right, I saw an incubator of newborn chicks in a small utility room. The family kept chickens. I'm in the house, I called out softly. When I reached the top of the stairs, I saw a scared white face peering at me from behind a door at the end of the corridor. The woman beckoned and I walked towards her. She stepped back and allowed me into the room. I was in a small pink and cream bedroom tucked under the eaves. Supporting beams stood out dark against the white plaster of the walls. Pink fabric, printed with fairies and toadstools, lined the small deep window. Stuffed animals, mainly pink, were everywhere I looked. Against the longest wall stood the crib, a baby princess's cradle from a fairy tale, all cream lace and pink flounces. I stepped closer, still nourishing the hope that had sprung up when I answered the phone that the snake would be a toy one, practical joke somebody played on the mother by an older child. The baby tiny and perfect, handed softly, and a white baby grow embroidered with pink rabbits. Is that a onesie, maybe? Her mouth was slightly open. I could see the perfect raised pores above her upper lip, long dark eyelashes, and pink traces of milk, of a milk rash on her cheeks. Her little fists were clenched and her arms thrown above her head in the classic newborn baby sleeping pose. She looked absolutely fine, apart from the moment that she was sharing her bed with a venomous snake, the moment she moved. Wow. Okay. So now we would go to some explicit questions. So, what I want you to do is to read from the book and record at least 2 explicit questions and responses. So, I'm going to give you one explicit question. Was the snake real? Was the snake real? And your answer would be yes. The vet examined the snake and found that it was real, right? I'm going to give you now an implicit question. I have to go back to here. Let me give you an implicit question. Why was this a bad day? And I'd already gone over that, right? Why was this a bad day for the vet? What are your responses? Her mother died, she saw a ghost, and there was a snake in a baby's crib. Right? So it was not a bad day, right? That's an understatement. Why was this a horrible day for the vet? So then you're going to respond and answer. Please send me those. Send me what you got. I'd love to hear from you. That's all we have from today. Wednesday, you would make my day if you would come in for our in-person reading class. I would just love to meet some of you. I've read your names for a year now. It would be great. Come on in. You are welcome. 11:30 Wednesday at 400 West Ave. But if you have responses, explicit and implicit, email me, text me. You can respond any way you want. Take care. You all have a wonderful day.